Smack-a-magab, everybody. Hey, look who I have with me. Brian Davis.
How's it going, Ralph? Good to be
Yeah,
back.
Brian Davis from Damn Good Movie Memories.
Very good. You got it right. You got it right. Usually it's like,
Yeah,
gosh darn damn good. Yeah, but you got it.
yeah.
So,
Gosh darn
yeah,
movie memories.
that's right.
And yeah, man. And I said on the Almost Human group, because I was listening to this right here, Badlands, Voodoo Highway. And I'm like, man, I want to review this with somebody, not alone.
Mhm.
I just went in the group and said, anyone who wanted to review Voodoo Highway with me, and Brian texts me, because he's got my number.
Yeah.
So like, there you go. So I don't think anybody ever replied to my original one. I
I
don't.
don't know. I don't know. That's the thing about Badlands. It's like if you meet a Badlands person, they're going to be your friend for life because it's you're in that group. So,
Yeah. So if somebody did, I apologize. I've been very busy, and I got it on my phone. A text from Brian Davis wanted to do it. I was like, that's it. But I forgot about the post I put up.
right.
But so I apologize if somebody did reply on there going, I'll do it. So yeah,
What?
I've already done a review of the first album. It's on this channel.
Mhm.
I did that one alone. But man, I don't know what it is, but I keep listening to Voodoo Highway a lot lately, to the point where I feel now I like it more than the first album.
Mm.
I do. And I love the first album. Many people would pick the first album, but I'm telling you, man, I love this album, man. I think this fucking album's good. It goes through a lot of, moods, soul shit, metallic shit.
Yep.
Amazing. And I did see the tour.
Oh, really?
Well, I saw Badlands on the first album twice.
Wow. You're lucky.
Yeah, I saw him headline a club.
Hmm.
Then I saw him open for Great White and Tesla.
Wow.
It was Great White, Tesla, and Badlands. So I saw that. And then they came back and they headlined for Voodoo Highway.
Mm.
And I met Jake that day, and yeah, it was rough, man. They were in cars and a U-Haul. They didn't have
Yeah.
a bus or nothing. They were struggling out there. And yeah, I saw this tour as well. So yeah, I was lucky enough to see Badlands 3 times.
That is super lucky. That was like, I tell people when Pride and Glory came out with Zach Wild, I got to see them 3 times on their tour, on that one year in '94. It's almost like the same thing because it was like a flash in the pan, they're gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I only saw them once.
Hmm.
But by the time I saw Pride and Glory, I think it was just Zach. I think the other two guys were gone.
And what's interesting is that there is kind of a tie-in here because at this point, Eric Singer left the band or was kicked out of the band, according to Greg Chason. And so the one of the guys that they thought of getting in was Greg D'Angelo from White Lion, but he was also in the first incarnation of Pride and Glory. And so then, obviously, then they thought about who to get next. One was thinking about getting the TT Quick drummer, Eric Farrell. Another one was Pat Dixon from the band Icon. And then they came down to, Jeff Martin from Racer X, which is crazy because he was a singer in Racer X. Scott Travis was the drummer. So to get Jeff Martin in the band, we'll probably talk about it. But were you surprised, or did you know that Eric Singer had been replaced when you were, going to see the Voodoo Highway tour?
Yeah, because I already owned the CD.
Okay.
And I was shocked. I was like, what? The singer of fucking Racer X is their drummer?
Yeah.
You know? Badass singer, man, Jeff Martin.
Hmm.
So, but man, a badass drummer. I saw
Yeah.
it live. He was amazing. He was fucking badass, man. So yeah, it was I heard Jake talk about Eric Singer wanting more money or something.
Mm.
It was something like that, and that's why he left.
According to Greg Chason, so I have this great. They released on Rock Candy Records the first 2 albums, but it was only out for a very limited amount of time before they pulled them. And I got copies before they pulled them. because of all the legal issues. And so there's some great liner notes. Greg Chason was basically saying that Eric Singer was always kind of the dissenting voice in the group. Like he wanted to do interviews. The other guys didn't want to do interviews. They wanted kind of more a 70s mysterious vibe. And so I think it was a perfect time for him to join Kiss. They were looking to go elsewhere. So I think it may have been more money. It was also maybe just personality at that point too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do you prefer Jeff Martin or Eric Singer, or does it matter?
well, I've seen them both live, and I don't know, man. To tell you the truth, I mean, Singer's technically better,
Hmm.
but I like Jeff Martin's raw energy more. You know, I like that rawness. What I saw that night was some fantastic drumming, not perfect like Eric Singer, but more organic and human.
Right.
Because Eric Singer tends to be machine-like many times,
Right.
too too precise.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, but his drumming on the first Badlands is awesome.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it is amazing. So I'm not bashing his drumming.
Hmm.
Yeah, I prefer Jeff Martin though.
Yeah.
You prefer him as a drummer, you know?
For you, it's Voodoo Highway. For me, it's any given day. It's kind of like with Ozzy and Blizzard and Diary. Depending on the day, one of them's my favorite. It's the same thing with the first two Dio Black Sabbath albums. I can go either way. It's really hard for me to choose. Like, after listening to Voodoo Highway a number of times yesterday and today, it might be Voodoo Highway. But if I go back to the debut, I mean, again, they put out so much good material in a short amount of time, and it's just a shame they couldn't do more, you know?
Yeah, and there is that other album called Dusk
Right?
that everybody loves. I can't get into that album.
Really?
I can't. I tried.
Mm.
It just doesn't. It sounds like songs that were not good enough for the album for me.
Hmm.
You know, I do own it. I own Dusk. You know, I bought it, and everybody loves that album.
I enjoy it too. I mean, they recorded it in the spring of 91. So it was before they actually went on the Voodoo Highway tour. And so they are demos. They are, you know, that they probably weren't meant to be. So who knows what it could have turned into. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. I can't get enough of Ray Gillen. I mean, I think that guy was just criminally underrated, and a lot of people just don't know about him. And if they do know about him, they know the negative stuff. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get into more of Ray Gillen, but that guy just had it, you know?
Yep. And well, I'll come up a little bit about Ray Gillen.
Okay.
And I heard Jakey Lee talk about this. Paul O'Neill, the
Hmm.
guy that produced the first Badlands album,
Hmm.
and he had a lot to do with Sabotage and the Transtesticle Orchestra.
Yeah.
And Jake said Paul O'Neill blackmailed him. Said,
Mm.
if I don't get this, that, and the other thing, I'm telling the record company Ray Gillen's got AIDS.
Uh,
And Jake was like, go ahead, because Ray Gillen ain't got AIDS. Jake didn't know.
right.
And Paul O'Neill did. And because of Paul O'Neill's narking to the record company about Ray Gillen, they hardly promoted Voodoo Highway because of that.
Yeah.
And well, maybe he wanted to produce it. I don't remember what he was threatening Badlands with, but yeah. And then since Paul O'Neill has died, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know from they always wanted them to do a cover song. One of the cover songs they wanted to do, one of the NR guys wanted to do Burning Heart from Vandenberg. They didn't want to do it. They didn't mind the song, but it wasn't the vibe they were going for. So it was like from then on, they were just kind of like, okay, these guys aren't team players. We will talk about the cover they did there, but it wasn't even the cover that the record company wanted to do anyway. So I think between that and they weren't commercial sounding at all. I think this, you know, they weren't going to go the extra effort for Badlands, and it's a shame.
there, Jake did talk about like after all this time, after Voodoo Highway and Dusk and all that, that Ray Gillen wanted to get more pop,
Right.
and they actually even had a fight on stage in England where Kerrang was there
That's right.
for it, and yeah, it was pretty bad toward the end, man.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like a disaster for them, but on stage, they still put on great shows. I've seen YouTube videos of all that. You saw them. Did you see any contention on stage? Or they were amazing.
No, it was ripping.
Yeah.
In both those club shows, I was pressed against the stage.
Yeah.
Right there, you know, it was hot. But
I bet.
all club shows are hot down here. But they were fucking amazing. The Voodoo Highway one, they did Speed King.
Yeah.
The Purple song. I was like, ooh. No, they were just amazing, and it was a lot of soloing. Jake was really, really like showing off, but in an awesome way where it's a one. Jakey Lee's a wonder.
He is.
You're talking about underrated guitar players. I mean, what that guy has done is phenomenal, especially on these two Badlands albums. I think it's his best work.
100%. 100%. So I wanted to pose a question to you. Let's say Jake, Greg, and Jeff reunited today. Who would you get as the singer? Someone that would be a singer today?
Sammy Hagar.
Well, besides Sammy, because he wants to be in every band.
Oh. Actually, easy answer for me.
Sure.
Eric Gronwald.
Really?
Yeah. I think the guy's phenomenal. I just found out today Eric Gronwald is going to sing on most of the new Michael Schenker album.
Wow, that could be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure that guy's a freak of nature, man. I see it with my own eyes. The notes that guy would hit was fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
With no effort. And
no.
This skinny guy that just got over, cancer. Unbelievable. So yeah, that would be a great singer.
Yeah. And I don't see why they could. I mean, money would be involved. That'd be a great one. The obvious one, I think Glenn Hughes would be great if they got Glenn Hughes. The other one, I'm not sure you're a fan of this band, but the Rival Sons singer, Jay Buchanan, great voice. He's got that rasp that's similar to Ray Gillen.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, you want to dive into the songs?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's take the first one, The Last Time.
Sure. So look, the debut started off with that, ripping song of High Wire. And the last time, it doesn't have the same shred, but it's still a terrific way to start the album with the kind of the bass line. It eases its way in. And from the start, I love how raw Ray Gillen's vocals are, and it carries all the way through the album. The last time kind of sets the tone for the rest of the album. The solo from Jake is awesome. And you get these little touches that he adds to each lick that kind of makes the song stand out. It's kind of like Jake's version of Zakk Wylde's pinch harmonics, but if you listen for it, you'll hear it. It's like that subtle like revving noise, like the he adds that. And if anyone had any doubts about, and we talked about this, not having Eric Singer as the drummer, this song kind of eases all those worries because Jeff Martin is fabulous. This song and every song, and part of the reason this album's so good and raw, Jakey Lee is the one that produced the album. He kind of kept true that 70s vibe the whole way through. And while, the debut definitely felt raw for 1989, Voodoo Highway almost sounds like a very well-produced demo, but in a good way. And Greg Chason was saying that, they didn't do any more than 3 or 4 takes for each song. And so I think they really kept that vibe the whole way through. So great start to the album with The Last Time.
Yeah, he's right. It's got this 70s vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something very strange about this song. When I saw Badlands headline on the first album, it was an awesome show.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw them open for Great White and Tesla, and that's a much limited time. They played this song.
Interesting.
The original lineup with Eric Singer played The Last Time. I saw them play it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And I love this song, man. I think this song rips. There's a video for it that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Great opener. Love it.
There's also kind of like a mini documentary around the time of this album too. That also has the video on it. You can find it on YouTube. It's great to see because there's just not a lot of footage of them.
I think it's called Dag the Giblets.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the next song is Show Me. And oh my God, what a killer, soulful voice that Ray Gillen has, man. And the song, is ballady in spots and what a guitar solo from Jake on this tune. Jake is like, I'm telling you, this is his best work, what he did with Badlands. Melodic yet ripping. I love it. What do you think?
Oh yeah, but I gotta tell you, when I first listened to the album years ago, this song kind of threw me for a loop because I figured after the last time, kind of the next song would be a ripper,
Right.
kind of what, But Show Me the Way ended up being a real grower for me, and I ended up really appreciating it because it's that laid back, bluesy vibe of it. But again, every single guitar solo that Jake plays on this album is perfection. I think even better than the debut, which says a lot. This is definitely an album track, and maybe it'd be suited better for maybe not track 2, maybe in the middle of the album. I think it's easy to get overlooked because coming up, this is a spoiler alert, the next 5 songs are just amazing. So I kind of have a question for you because sometimes this happens on me. So on albums, when you know there's an amazing song coming up, or in this case, 5 of them, do you almost underappreciate the track that comes before them?
No, not really. I mean, I do recognize some of the songs are better
Mhm.
than the tracks before it, but not necessarily a bad song.
Okay.
So no, no. The answer would be no.
Mhm. For me, it's almost like a psychologically thing. It's a psychological thing that a song on its own I may really enjoy, but in the album form, I there's something like I know that Shine On's coming or something like that, and so I don't know. Maybe that only happens in album form, but I know there's times when you probably heard Iron Man a bazillion times. You hear it on the radio, you'll probably turn it off. But on Paranoid, when you're listening to the entire album, it doesn't bother you. So there's also that psychological part of it too.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. Oh, so what do you think of Shine On?
Oh, I would have placed this as track 2 instead of 3, just because of that initial riff on Shine On from Jake is just awesome. It would have complemented the last time perfectly. And man, when Jake gets into a solo after playing those riffs, it's perfection. One of the things I always appreciate about Badlands is the lack of the bells and whistles. And what I mean by that, you don't have any keyboards, you don't really have additional percussion. And certainly there's no 80s polish production wise on this. You could have said this album was created in 1972. I think most people would probably believe you. And that's why I always felt that Badlands was the second coming of Zeppelin. They kind of took the foundation of the blues and made it super, super heavy. And I know, Ralph, you're not a huge fan of like blues originals, but I think you respect the lineage and the legacy because without the blues, you don't have the Stones or Hendrix or Zeppelin, Aerosmith, ZZ Top, even Black Sabbath. So there's something so primal about the blues, from the lyrics to the chord structures, and it just makes it ripe for heaviness and experimentation. And frankly, the early blues guys were singing about the devil and loose women and drinking 30 years before it became fashionable. So I've always loved that about the blues. And so, yeah, Shine On is just heavy, heavy blues, and we're going to get more examples of that coming up.
I will say, you are correct. I'm not a fan of the blues.
Mm-hmm.
And but there are some blues songs I love. But what I really love, and I own it, is Robert Johnson.
Yeah, from
It's
1936.
which is not a lot of songs. He didn't record that much.
29.
Yeah, 29 songs. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's primitive blues.
Oh yeah, he was if you listen to his guitar playing, and it was just acoustic, he was way ahead of its time. Nobody was playing like that. Yeah.
No, because he sold his soul to the devil.
That's right. You saw the Ralph Macchio movie, so yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Karate Kid with guitars.
Yeah. Steve Vai, fuck off. It's all about Ralph Macchio.
Exactly. And the funny part is everything Ralph played in that movie,
Yeah.
Steve Vai.
Yeah. And then the other stuff, it was Ry Cooder.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, both of them played. Yep.
I did not know that. Well,
Yeah.
I like Shine On. I like that killer opening chugging a riff, and that it's this like hard rock vibe that sounds like it would fit fine in a 70s album.
Yeah.
And I love that chugging middle section, man. What Jake is doing, that chugging riffage.
Yep.
Shine On is awesome. All right, the next song, Whiskey Dust, my favorite song off the album. The swagger is thick on this. With the it's an amazing song from an amazing band. The changes before the solo is biblical. It's amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite song off the album. I love Whiskey Dust. Love this song.
So before I talk about it, just Ralph and I did not discuss the album before this. Whiskey Dust is not only my favorite song from the album, it's quite possibly my favorite song from them as a band. It has everything that makes Badlands one of my favorite bands, and that intro blues riff has everything that makes the blues wonderful, but then with that heavy feeling where it's like Hendrix, ZZ Top, and Zeppelin all in once. And if you're not bobbing your head once the drums start to kick in, you're comatose, man. And then Ray's vocals on this, fabulous. There's a point where his voice almost cracks a bit. And while some might say, that shouldn't be in there, it's actually what makes the song amazing. It's like those little mistakes that made Zeppelin so great. And what you hear on Voodoo Highway, I could imagine sounded exactly the same night after night when they were performing. And again, I know, Ralph, you're not a huge fan of slide guitar, but I think even non-fans of that style can honestly say what Jake does on this song with the slide is amazing. I love this.
Yeah. No, there are some slide guitars, but you see the way he uses it on the song is different than, you know, slide guitars I hear on other songs, man.
Sure.
So it's definitely is welcomed.
Sure. And I've always liked the slide because I'm a blues guy, but you know, I liked what Dwayne Allman did with the Allman Brothers. And that's kind of what Jake channels and Whiskey does, along with a very Billy Gibbons type of slide guitar too. Stuff that you would hear you know, like on you know, LaGrange or stuff like that, or Just Got Paid, you know, you would hear that kind of slide. And this is also where Jeff Martin shines with his drumming, that backbeat where Ray's vocals come back of the guitar. So the song grooves the whole way through. I never get enough of it.
Whiskey Dust rules. What do you think of Joe's Blues?
So it's kind of like on the debut where Jade's song had, you know, he had an acoustic instrumental from Jake. I actually like this one a lot better because of my love of the blues, but this is something you could have heard from the 40s from a guy like Sondhaus or Big Bill Brunsey. It's very short. It's under a minute, but it sets up the next song perfectly because you think the next song might be a traditional blues number, but instead they kind of pull a Black Sabbath trick here and they hit you over the head with a smoker. Ironic, I don't know if you knew this, this song was actually inspired by Joe Holmes because he was actually Jake's guitar tech during the recording of Voodoo Highway. Of course, Joe Holmes would go on to play with Ozzy after Zakk Wylde left.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Joe's Blues is about Joe Holmes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool acoustic solo, you know, but I would rather hear Jake strapped into a Marshall.
Fair enough. Yep.
And that's what happens in the next song.
That's right.
That opening riff, crushing.
Yeah.
Crushing. Soul Stripper, man. Now that's what I want to hear Jake doing, man. Ripping tune. It's very metallic, you know, kind of like High Wire.
Yeah.
It's like the High Wire on this album is fucking awesome. Absolutely love Soul Stripper and the way they use Ray Gillen's effect when you set me free.
Yeah.
That shit's awesome, man. Awesome too.
Yeah, those effects are kind of like what that kind of like delay effect was like what they did on Zeppelin 2 with Robert Plant. You know, I love that stuff. That's why this is a very 70s influenced vibe. So I mentioned Black Sabbath. This reminds me, it's the equivalent of having Don't Start Too Late on Sabotage, goes right into Symptom of the Universe. You get this great little acoustic piece, and then all of a sudden, this massive, crunchy, pummeling riff. It's so good. And then to complement the riff, the soulful scream from Ray right out of nowhere. And then, you know, here's another example. You think Ray's voice is going to give out at any moment. Never quite does. He just had that natural gift to sing anytime, any place, and sound like a rock god. When people think of Zeppelin clones, you know, it's a negative connotation. You think of Kingdom Come or Greta Van Fleet, maybe even Great White. But here's where Badlands is an example of having influences, but not copying them. It's kind of what Zeppelin did with the blues. They played blues covers, but they made them their own. They actually made it better for many people. So Badlands took the blues and Zeppelin and made it their own. So, I mean, again, I would introduce Soul Stealer or Whiskey Dust to someone. I'm like, if you haven't heard Badlands, check these out.
You know, you think about it, man. If it wasn't for just the state of music, if Badlands was a band from the 70s, they probably would have had like a Physical Graffiti. I'm talking about a band that doesn't break up. Like Badlands and Voodoo Highway, you can equate it to Zeppelin and Zeppelin 1.
Sure.
Zeppelin 2. It could have kept going and growing maturely, because Led Zeppelin did it better. You know, just to get off the subject,
Sure.
I saw a post that somebody said, "What band shouldn't exist?" And somebody commented, Led Zeppelin. So I immediately, this is what I did. I'm not lying, Brian. This is the truth.
Yeah.
I immediately walked out, got in my car, drove to church, got on my hands and knees, and I prayed for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
He,
lost soul, man.
he needs it. Yep, absolutely.
Poor dude.
Yep.
Anyway, so where are we now? 3 Day
We're at the
Funk.
three-day funk.
Grooving track, feel
Yeah.
good song. Ray's voice is so amazing. I love this song. It's a fun song. It's like an uplifting tune. But it also rocks.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh yeah. In addition to loving the blues, I also love classic soul music from the 60s and 70s, along with funk music. This isn't James Brown or Funkadelic. It's like a rock version with influences there. So again, those that know the Rock and Metal Combat podcast, also Rockin' Pod, back in the second one, Ian, the song title could have been Ian when he dressed up in that moo when he was dressed up like Vinnie Vincent. It was a 100-degree day in Nashville. Ralph had to share a room with him. That was definitely some 3-day funk. I think Ralph remembers it. Kidding,
Yeah,
Ian. I think
Ian don't remember, but I was sober.
there was some 3-day funk there, but go. Actually, you just posted that video not too long ago, so that was a fun trip down memory lane. But again, this is another great album track. It's perfect in the sequence, in the flow. So, with the exception of the second song, I think the sequencing of these tracks are perfect. And again, I know you're not a fan of the harmonica, but in this case, I'd be surprised if it bothered you on this song. It's really quick.
No, there's a lot of songs that, like I said, man, I'm not down the line. I hate everything.
Right.
I love horns on some songs. I love the harmonica, like trying to think, "Swinging the Chain" from Black Sabbath. I like the harmonica on that. I just don't. I prefer not to hear, but if they do it that way, then I enjoy it. If because there are some horns and there are some harmonicas out there in songs that I actually do dig.
Right. Well, I remember I asked you because we did Cheech and Chong and Earache in My Eye. You love the horns in that one.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's another great example,
Yeah. But again, this, for me, the harmonica is great. It sounds good. And actually, it's played by both Jeff Martin and Ray Gillen. They kind of blend it together. So the first part is Jeff Martin, the second part is Ray Gillen. So,
cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's all. See, it's good that I got you. See, if I was to do this shit alone, I wouldn't talk about that because I don't know.
Well, it's like you guys got to listen to the Decibel Week podcast that Ralph just guested on with Black Sabbath. He was dropping all this Black Sabbath knowledge that Aaron and Chris didn't know, and it's just because Ralph's a super fan. So it's good stuff. They compliment.
A lot of funny stuff Black Sabbath went through.
Yeah.
All right. So then we got Silver Horses.
Yeah.
And this is a cool tune with an even more amazing middle section.
Mm-hmm.
Such a stinky groove, man. It's an amazing song. What do you think?
Oh, so when I think of Voodoo Highway, two songs come to mind. Whiskey Dust, obviously. The other is Silver Horses. It makes sense. Much like Whiskey Dust, that intro riff of Silver Horses and the build-up, same thing happens here. You almost think it's going to be a guitar instrumental because it's just Ray's riff and there's nothing behind it. But then when the song starts to kick in, your body just starts to move with the rhythm of the song. The riffage throughout the song, killer. But Ray's vocals are what makes this song one of the best on the album. He pushes his vocals to the limit. He's always got this bend but never break type of range. Again, he's one of the best rock vocalists that never got his due. Just because he didn't record that much. He just doesn't have that much out there. And you mentioned the breakdown. Yes, it's got that funky kind of psychedelic vibe to it. Something you'd probably hear from like Hendrix. It fits really well here.
Yeah, man. It's amazing how this album didn't get like that much praise. And I think the songwriting on here is every bit as strong as the first album.
Yeah.
Weird. I love Silver Horses. but the next one, Love Don't Mean a Thing. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, the intro sounds very similar to 3 Day Funk, but instead, after that kind of initial similarity, it then becomes something a bit different. And I love hearing Ray say, like, oh, fuck me. And it makes me think that was a mistake they decided to leave in, which was great.
Right.
And this is another song. You're 9 songs into this album, and it feels like no time has passed because every song is great. You can't wait to hear what's next. The amount of strong material that this band had with their 2 official albums, it's mind-boggling. And those pre-solo riffs by Jake, tasty. And then when it gets to his solo, it's even better. You know, I don't know about you, but every time I listen to this album, and even the first Badlands album, I keep hearing more and more new things. It's kind of like watching a movie you've seen a million times. You start to really focus in on stuff that you may not have noticed, and it's the same thing with this album.
Oh yeah. And,
Yeah.
and the song, the intro is so metallic,
Mm-hmm.
so heavy, and it's one of the heavier tunes on the album, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake is really showing off on this tune.
Yeah.
Whoa, his guitar work on this is off the scale, man. Love it. Then we go into Voodoo Highway. This is an awesome song,
Mm-hmm.
like a Delta blues vibe to it,
Yep.
and it has such a flow. I feel this song is biblical
Mm.
again.
So this is what I thought would be after Joe's Blues, because you had that kind of that bouncy blues song, and
Right,
then you
right.
thought this may come next. So that was cool that they didn't do that. They kind of hit it. Now I get it. Maybe most hard rock fans probably aren't into this, but for me, I absolutely adore this. And the reason is it's simple. It's authentic. This isn't Bret Michaels singing "Poor Boy Blues" about his slums in Pennsylvania. That's fake. This is real. This sounds like it reminds me of when Van Halen did "Could This Be Magic" or "Take Your Whiskey Home," and that's from my favorite Van Halen album. So this might not be one that people really want to on their playlist, but as an album track as a whole, it fits right in. So it's a great song.
All right. I don't mean to get off the subject for a
Yeah,
second, but you just brought up Women and Children first.
yeah.
And I want to send this out to everybody out there. Leave your comments below about what I'm about to tell you. My good friend Bushy. Now, mind you, I don't believe he believes this. He swears he does. I don't believe it because I honestly don't believe anybody thinks this. But my friend Bushy says that "Oh You Wait One Too" is better than Women and Children First. Leave your comments below, kids. What do you think of that? All right. Yeah. Voodoo Highway. All right. Fire and Rain. Supposed to be Fire and Water from Free, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, you were saying earlier, well, the record company guy said, hey, dude, he said, the record company guy said, Fire and Rain.
Yeah,
and later he realized he made the mistake.
that's
He
right.
meant to say Fire and Water.
Mm-hmm.
But man, come on. You think, and Fire and Water is a great song.
It is.
They could have done a cover of Fire and Water as good as this cover of Fire and Rain?
No,
Impossible.
no.
This song, and I like James Taylor, man. I like it.
Hmm.
I like this version more. I think it's so well done.
Yeah.
It's a beefed up version of it with Ray just shining, man, with that amazing voice, and the band just spot on. This could have been a huge hit if it was, marketed right.
Yeah.
This is an amazing song, melodic, catchy, badass, hit single written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel about it?
Well, yeah, and if they had done Fire and Water, I mean, again, Paul Rogers, Ray Gillen, they kind of had a similar raspy voice. It made sense, but they probably wouldn't have done it that much differently. So it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. I still would have liked to hear it. I think it would have been a cool B-side. But when you're going to do a cover, it should be different. And this is completely different than the James Taylor version, which is, it's laid back, it's acoustic, and this makes it awesome. It's an oddball track almost, but it's not one of my favorite songs in the album, but I still enjoy it as an album as a whole. And we were mentioning before, they wanted Badlands to do a cover from the first album. They wanted Burning Heart from Vandenberg. They wouldn't do it. So finally, I think they kind of acquiesced on this one. And again, why they didn't release this as a single, I don't know. Maybe it just came down to screw these guys. We're not going to promote them, which is a shame. Why have a band on your label if you're not going to promote them? So
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, take the next one, Heaven's Trade.
This sounds like it could have been on the debut. It's very much in the vein of Hard Driver or Ball and Chain. I love Heaven's Trail. In some ways, I think it probably should have ended the album. This is a track where Jeff Martin just kills it on drums, and those riffs from Jake, they just rip. And again, when I hear a song like this, and I realize that most hard rock fans have never even heard this album or even Badlands in general, you just have to shake your head because they are everything a hard rock fan would want. But it's kind of like, again, I mentioned that you meet someone that knows Badlands, you got a friend because they're into something you like. Yeah, I'll get into when we get into the next song, but I think this should have ended the album.
Yeah, I love it. Fast pace,
Mhm.
rocking tune, keeping the momentum going. This late in the album's kind of long, right? How long is it?
It's 13 songs, but I think it's still under 50 minutes,
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a killer rocking tune. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great. Then we end it with In a Dream.
Mhm.
Wow, what a song! What a vocal performance! It's only Ray, right?
I always thought so too, but then there is a moment in the middle where you can hear a little bit of acoustic guitar.
All right, but my God.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and a side note, some guy went on American Idol and sung that song.
Yeah, Bo Bice. Yep.
Bo Bice went and he did a great job.
He did. He did. I'm shocked because you would think a lot of people haven't heard this. Maybe that's why he did it. Maybe people thought it was going to be an original because a lot of people haven't heard of Badlands, especially on American Idol. So
yeah, exactly. It's a brand new song to them.
Yep.
Fine job, but man, nothing can touch Ray Gillen though.
No.
His version is unbelievable and just love it. What do you think of In a Dream?
I think it's great, but I just don't think this was the way the album should have ended for me. I think again, Heaven's Train should have ended the album. I love albums where it's kind of race in, race out, like Master of Puppets. Start with Battery, end with Damage Inc. I think this would have been cool if it was somewhere in the middle. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That could be a comment thing. There's nothing.
I do agree with you, except for one album. There is one album that's end slow that's awesome.
What is it?
The cap to how great the album is.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon from Motley Crue.
That's true.
That album ended with that masterpiece at the end and made Generation Swine universally loved by all. Even I see people, I hate Motley Crue, except for Generation Swine.
Right.
This shit rules.
Going back to a Dream, there's nothing I dislike about this song. But yeah, it's almost apropos though in a way that it ended the album because this would be the final official track that he sang with Badlands. You can't really count Dusk. So I'm not dogging the song. Somewhere else maybe it would have been better, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But yeah, if you want to showcase the vocal talents of Ray and you just want to hone in on his voice, this is the track.
Yeah, it's pretty much him singing along with that gorgeous voice, man.
Yeah.
So there you go, Brian. Thank you so much, my friend.
No problem. One final fun fact I'll throw in. You might know this. So we talked about the Trouble on Tour. So they thought about replacing Ray with two different singers. One was a female singer named Debbie Holiday. And right before the UK tour, she demanded more money. She wanted double the amount of money. They couldn't pay it, so she quit. Then they tried to get that guy, Ray Lamont, from the River Dogs. Remember Vivian Campbell's band?
Yeah.
He didn't want to follow Ray Gillen as a singer, so I couldn't blame him. So after that, they got Ray back into the band. So yeah, and maybe if we could quickly touch upon, I go back and forth with, should these albums be re-released? I absolutely think so, because it's not just about Ray. It's about three or four other guys that were in Badlands that deserve to have their albums released. Are we going to go back and get rid of all the 80s albums from Judas Priest because of Dave Holland? Of course not. So while I don't condone certainly what Ray Gillen was accused of, there are three other members of this band that deserve their music to be heard. So I don't know.
I agree with you 100%. These albums are amazing and should be out there,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure it's not on streaming as well, right?
No, I mean it's definitely on YouTube. So if you can get it there, if you're lucky enough to grab a copy, luckily I have a couple copies on CD that I will never get rid of. Yeah, that's really the only place you can get it. I know there are a few guys on the Rock and Metal Combat page that have kind of bootleg versions on vinyl of the first two albums, and they say they sound pretty good. So there's that. There's also some bootlegs of their demos out there that isn't Dusk that if you can find are worth checking out. The quality's hit or miss, but it's still cool to hear if you're a super fan. So
My first Badlands CD is signed by Ray Gillen twice
really,
on the outside and inside.
oh, how at the same time or just different times you went
It
and
was
got
the
it?
same night. It was the
Really?
same night. I don't know how that happened, but in the inside is Greg Chase on
Hmm.
and Ray Gillen, and on the cover it's Jakey Lee
Hmm.
and Ray Gillen.
Really?
And then when I met Eric Singer, I had him sign it too. But yeah, it's on the inside and outside.
How was Ray? Like, was he a cool guy or what was he like?
Super nice. But
Okay,
I'll tell a funny story.
sure.
I mean, it could have not been a funny story. No, I'm not going to name her, but she's a friend of mine,
Sure.
and she was hitting on Ray Gillen hard,
Mm.
right? And she said to Ray Gillen, "I love the way you say mama." He said, and he's telling this roadie guy,
Hmm.
and he's hugging her, and he's telling his roadie, "She likes the way I say mama." And she's like, man, he's like, "God damn your voice." And then I don't know what happened, but they split up because
Okay.
I wasn't hanging out. I
Hmm.
just saw that section of it. And then I saw her later, and I didn't mention, hey, whoa, what happened, Ray? Nothing after that. But now in retrospect, looking, what if
Yeah,
Ray
yeah.
Gillen would have taken her, and banged her?
I know. Well, I don't. Wait, was this the first tour or the second tour?
Second towards Voodoo,
Yeah.
Voodoo Highway.
So you never know. I know. How and you've met Jake and obviously you've met Greg. So Greg's on Facebook a
No,
lot.
no,
So
I
yeah.
never met. I met Greg really briefly when he signed
Okay.
the CD. I didn't really get to talk to him, but Jakey Lee I met again.
Mhm. Oh, really?
And I had him do an ID for Rock and Metal Combat Podcast that he fucked it all up. But he was hilarious. He was really cool. So yeah, and I spent time with Ray Gillen
Hmm.
when I met on Voodoo Highway in a little while. But Greg was super quick,
Yeah.
and I don't remember meeting
Jeff Martin.
Jeff. I don't remember meeting him.
Okay. But I
Uh,
know Greg's all over Facebook, so hopefully you'll see this. Maybe he'll have some comments. But yeah, I mean, he is definitely in the Rock Candy liner notes. He was the one that was interviewed for that. He had some great stories and insight about the making of this album. So, and again, it's kind of like when you find people that know about Badlands, it's a good thing. So, because they're kind of few and far between unless you kind of find your niche. So, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for throwing this out there. And it's good to know people in high places. I have Ralph's number, I go straight to the man. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what? Maybe I would have honestly, I probably would have forgot about that post and
Hmm.
never went back. You know. So,
Yeah,
but I'm glad you text me. I'm like, oh, Brian wants to do it. Yeah, let's do this shit tomorrow.
that's right.
I'm like, let's do it tomorrow.
Well,
And
we've
it'll be upset.
I don't know if people know, but back in the day, so I've been on Rock and Metal Combat podcast a number of times, but we also used to do the VIERA Vault. So we did like an entire Armored Saint discussion about their whole discography. We talked about Skinnerd, their discography. We've had some great discussions and just always a lot of fun to chat about things.
And it's all still there. Go
Yeah,
type in Vieira Vault, Brian Davis.
yeah,
A lot of cool episodes on the Vieira Vault.
yeah.
But yeah, I thank you, man. Thank you for going on those, and thank you for coming on tonight, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I mean, it's always great to catch up, and I'm a huge fan, and I just love the insight you give. And keep doing what you're doing. You're the hardest working man in podcasting. So
Thank you so much. And plug for your podcast.
yeah, damn good movie memories. Been doing it since 2016. There's over 400 episodes. Ralph and Ian have been on a number of them, and actually Ralph's going to be on one in 3 weeks now for Death Wish 2. We talk about a lot about Jimmy Page, and so that's what's fun. And Ralph's love of vigilante movies, so things like that. That was a lot of fun.
Check out, man. I love your podcast. I listen to it all the time, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you, Brian, again, and thank you everybody for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please subscribe to Brian's channel if you haven't. And like the video because it's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty, listen to Black Sabbath, and smack 'em a god.